So Star Wars Day was a couple of days ago. The Bad Batch came out. Disney announced a retractable lightsaber. Disney announced some pretty big release dates for Star Wars. We also had some Lucasfilm employees talking to fans on Twitter in a very negative way. We'll probably talk about that in a different video. But of course, on a day that's supposed to be very positive when the Bad Batch is coming out, like I said, they announced some pretty big release dates for the Star Wars movies in the future. Of course, the Star Wars fandom is not happy. There was a lot of drama in the Star Wars fandom on Star Wars Day. Shocker, I know. But in particular, there was some very bad backlash towards the Bad Batch, towards particular characters inside of the Bad Batch, toward particular plot points in the Bad Batch. And to me, it's just very frustrating at this point. It seems like no matter what Star Wars does, it seems like no matter what Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni do, no matter how good their content is, people are always going to complain. People in this space, I swear, just look for negative things. People in this space, I swear, are actually sexist. And I hate when people throw around those istaphos, but I swear that's the only explanation for some of these complaints that people have. And I've never been one to be fully on one side of the Star Wars fandom. I've never been one to be fully inside of the fandom menace. Never been one to love the sequel trilogy. I don't like to identify with certain groups because that limits your way of thinking. That's why I'll never say I'm conservative or liberal. That's why I'll never say I'm Republican or Democrat, because why would I do that? All you do by labeling yourself as a certain group is limit your way of thinking. So I'll never do that with politics. I'll never do that with Star Wars. But I would say that a lot of my beliefs align with the fandom menace's way of thinking. But there's certain people in the fandom menace, there's certain content creators in the space that I'm in that just can't be pleased. Not only is their only metric for a show, for a movie being good, is how woke it is, but it also seems like there's a direct correlation between female characters and how good a show is, or how good a movie is. And that's very frustrating to me because people associate people like that with people like me. And I just don't care what gender a character is. I don't care what race a character is. As long as they don't bring attention to it, as long as they don't give that character extra powers because of their identity, then I don't care. As long as they're well written, as long as they don't take away from the story, as long as they add to the story, then I just don't care about your identity. But it seems like a lot of people in this space, like I said, a lot of people in the fandom menace, a lot of content creators in this space, they claim they don't want identity politics in shows. They claim they don't care what race, what sex a character is, but then every single time there's a female, every single time there's a character that's not white in a show, they complain. And like I said, my beliefs usually align with the fandom menace, but this time I cannot be on the fandom menace's side. This time, if you're complaining about this, what we're going to talk about in this video, then I don't stand with you and I can't defend what you're saying. And personally, I think you're sexist. Personally, I think you do like identity politics. I just don't think you like the identity politics that are in the shows today because those are diverse and inclusive. Whether it's forced or not, that's a different conversation. I believe usually it is forced nowadays. And I would agree with most of the fandom menace. The identity politics in shows today are bad. They take away from the story over and over again, but these people love identity politics. These people that claim they hate identity politics actually love it. They just don't like the type of identity politics that are in the content that's being put out today. So I'm sure you're probably wondering what I'm talking about at this point. Well, here it is. This article is from Bounding Into Comics. Star Wars The Bad Batch introduces a new female clone, and a lot of people had a problem with it. A lot of people tried to say that they don't care about the gender of the characters, but it's obvious that they do. And a lot of people are making the argument that it's not ideal to have females in the military. Why would you make a clone that's made for the military and purposefully make it a female? It doesn't make any sense. And I would agree with you, females are not meant for the military. But I'll tell you why you're absolutely dead wrong and why that argument makes zero sense in a second. The first episode of Star Wars' latest animated series, Star Wars The Bad Batch, introduced a new female clone. Before she made her appearance on the show, the official Star Wars Twitter account revealed her presence in the show on Twitter. They wrote, "Meet Omega." In the episode, it's revealed that Omega is a defective clone like the rest of the Bad Batch. Like explained during the episode when Nala Se spoke of 5 clones, Sarkin assumed that meant us, but Echo's a reg, the 5th is Omega. He added, "I confirmed my suspicions after analyzing her DNA while we were in the infirmary. Not only is it revealed that she's a genetically defective clone like the rest of the Bad Batch, but it appears she can predict the future too, or at least she has some knowledge about the inhibitor chips placed in the clones." After the Bad Batch are detained for failing to execute their mission on the Onderon sector, Omega, who is also detained with them, has a conversation with Crosshair, and this is where a lot of people started having problems with Omega. A lot of people in the fandom had a problem with the conversation that she has with Crosshair, because how could she know all the things that she knows? How can she predict the future like this? But we'll talk about that in a second. She tells him, "I know what you're going to do, but please don't." She adds, "I know it's not your fault, you can't help it." Well, Omega was created to be a medical assistant. Of course she's gonna have knowledge of the inhibitor chips inside of the clone. She worked alongside of all the Kaminoans when they worked on the clones. I'm sure they had to teach her about the inhibitor chips. I'm sure that's a vital part. I'm sure that's a crucial part of the anatomy that she had to learn in order to work on these clones. Crosshair is then taken away and experimented on by Tarkin, who asked the Kaminoans to intensify the programming of his inhibitor chip. He is fooled when Omega picks up a blaster and a weapon she readily admits she's never used in her life, and is able to use it to hit Crosshair's sniper rifle out of his hand on her first shot. Now look, I've had some bad things to say about Dave Filoni in the past, but I do not think that Dave Filoni would ever create another Mary Sue. Dave Filoni had a huge hand in creating Rey, and I know he saw the backlash from the fans, and I know he likes to listen to the fandom. Jon Favreau even said it himself that when they're writing future scripts for The Mandalorian, they listen to the fan feedback before they begin writing. I know that Dave Filoni listens to the fans. I know that he saw the backlash over Rey. I know he doesn't want to make another Mary Sue. Do you really think in the first episode of The Bad Batch he would introduce another Mary Sue, another bestest ever? There's obviously a reason that she can sense clones, why she can sense the future, and there's obviously a reason why she picked up that blaster and was immediately able to shoot it exactly where she wanted it to go. This isn't by accident. This clone is force sensitive. This clone is enhanced in some way, and I'm sure there's going to be a logical explanation. I'm sure there's going to be a good explanation for this in understand the future, there's absolutely no way that Dave Filoni introduces another Mary Sue in the very first episode of The Bad Batch, a show that's supposed to be about the Bad Batch of clones, and I guess technically Omega is part of the Bad Batch too, but we were under the assumption that it was going to be about the 5 Bad Batch clones that we saw in the Clone Wars. There is absolutely no way that Dave Filoni would do that to us. There's no way that he doesn't understand the fandom enough to not do that. And I'm gonna be honest, if you're complaining about Omega doing this, if you're complaining about Omega being force sensitive or being able to tell the future, then you probably just have a problem with female characters. It is what it is, just admit it. Don't disguise yourself as part of the fandom menace. Don't disguise yourself as this person that doesn't want politics inside of Star Wars, that doesn't want politics inside of media, when you just straight up have a problem with female characters. That's what it is. Because with Rey, I didn't have a problem with her in The Force Awakens. I didn't have a problem with her in The Last Jedi. I was waiting for the explanation of her powers in The Rise of Skywalker, and once we got that dog shit explanation, that's when I started having problems with Rey. So just wait on Omega's explanation. Just wait to see why she has these powers, why she can shoot her blaster exactly where she wants it to go on the first time that she picked it up. Why can she sense the future? If you just actually give the show a chance, if you give Dave Filoni a chance past the first episode, I'm sure there's a logical explanation, and I'm sure it makes the story even better. And this is coming from someone who doesn't even like Dave Filoni all that much. I'm not the person that thinks Dave Filoni is God. It seems like everyone in the Star Wars fandom just blindly loves Dave Filoni, and I'm not one of those people. I understand what Dave Filoni did for the sequel trilogy. He had a huge part to play in a lot of the things that I hate about the sequel trilogy. But just wait and see the explanation. Just give it a chance past the first episode. And if you're not willing to do that, then you probably just don't like female characters, and it is what it is. As for her dazzling display of skill, she is questioned by Hunter about it. He asked, "Where did you learn to do that?" She responded, "I don't know. I never fired a blaster before. I guess I got lucky." And some of these replies are just ridiculous. They're exactly what I'm talking about. Disney invents another Mary Sue character for Star Wars. I also heard today that the grass is green and the sky is blue. How is it a Mary Sue character when we don't even know the explanation for the character? There could be a perfectly good explanation for her being able to sense the future. Like I said, being able to fire that blaster perfectly. What are these people's problems? And I know I'm gonna get hate on this video because a lot of people that follow me, a lot of people that subscribe to my channel follow that same way of thinking. And I'm not calling you sexist. I'm just saying be careful not to fall into this hate trap. Be careful not to fall into that way of thinking that a lot of people have adopted, that every time you see a female character that has some type of power, you think it's a Mary Sue. It's not always a Mary Sue. And I understand where you're coming from because a lot of the time it is. A lot of the time in Hollywood now, every single time there's a powerful female character, they literally just have their powers because it's female. But I just don't think after the backlash from Rey, after the backlash from the sequel trilogy, that Dave Filoni would do that to us again. To be honest, it didn't really ruin the episode, but it made me think. So an entire army of soldiers cloned for battle, and they still found a way to include a woman in the ranks. Now this is the argument that I absolutely hate. This is the argument that makes zero sense, because let's take a look at Omega's Wikipedia page. Omega was an enhanced human female clone of Jango Fett who lived in the years following the Clone Wars. She was a medical assistant to Nala Se. She was a medical assistant. Do you realize that men are better at fighting battles? Men are stronger physically, but women are better at taking care of people. Women are better at being medical assistants. Women take a natural interest in helping people and healing people. That's why there's more women nurses out there than male nurses. If they were going to create the ideal medical assistant, they would be female. It is what it is. Get over it. And I 100% agree with you. It makes no sense for women to be in the military. It just doesn't. In terms of going out and fighting battles, putting women in the military to go fight wars, to go fight battles, just doesn't make any sense because men are better at doing that job. That's what it is. But in terms of being a medical assistant, of being a nurse inside of a facility, it really doesn't matter what gender you are, or if it does matter, it's better to be a woman. Like I said, women's natural instincts, their biological wiring are better to do that type of thing. Women are just better suited to be medical assistants. Men are better suited to go conquer, to go fight battles, to go fight wars. That's just biology. Let's take a look at one more reply. Well, I was thinking about giving this series a shot, but now not anymore. Not even Filoni is willing to make good entertainment now. I guess it's just anime from now on. They see one woman character that has some sort of power and they immediately write off the show. It's so sad that so many people have adopted this way of thinking. And I understand where you're coming from. Like I said, I 100% understand the PTSD that you have, because it's not just Star Wars that had a Mary Sue. It's so many other movies. It's so many other TV shows. They give women special powers just for being a woman. I get it. I understand. But you have to be able to give this show a shot. I'm sure Dave Filoni has a great explanation for this. Just because a woman has powers doesn't mean they only have powers for the sake of being a woman with powers. I'm not even the biggest Dave Filoni fan in the world, but I know he's going to give us a good explanation for this. I know he wouldn't do that to us again, but let me know what you think in the comments. Do you absolutely hate that there's a female clone? Do you hate that she has powers? Are you writing off the show already because they're showing a female with powers? Or are you willing to give this show a chance? Are you willing to watch the rest of the show to understand why Omega is like this, why Omega has these powers? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to support the channel, check out all the new merch that I just dropped. The link to that will be in the description. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both of those links will be in the description as well. But thank you for watching the video and hope to see you in the next one.